The massive view screen on the bridge of the UNS Endeavour showed the approaching alien ship. It was beautiful in a strange way, all smooth curves and glowing blue lines, at least 3 times larger than the human vessel. Commander Jack Nelson took a deep breath. This moment would go down in history books, humanity's first official contact with an intelligent alien species. "All stations report ready, Commander," said Lieutenant Lisa Carter from her console. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and despite her calm voice, Jack noticed her fingers trembling slightly. "Thank you, Lieutenant. Let's make a good first impression." Jack straightened his uniform and faced the screen. After decades of listening to the stars, humanity had finally received a response. The aliens called themselves the Zeridians, and they had agreed to this meeting in neutral space, halfway between Earth's colony on Mars and their nearest outpost. The communication system chimed. A face appeared on screen, and several crew members gasped. The Zeridian had gray-blue skin, 4 yellow eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and a mouth that seemed too wide for its face. It stood at what Jack estimated to be 8 feet tall, with long limbs and 6-fingered hands. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the alien said, its voice translated through the ship's computer. "I am Ambassador Zortok of the Zeridian High Council." Jack stepped forward. "Ambassador, I am Commander Jack Nelson of the United Earth Government. On behalf of humanity, we welcome this historic meeting." The alien's wide mouth curved upward in what Jack hoped was a smile. "We have observed your species for some time," Zortok said. "We find your development interesting." Something about the way the alien said interesting made Jack uneasy. "We would be honored to share knowledge and culture with the Zeridian people," Jack replied carefully. Yes, a cultural exchange." Zortok waved a long-fingered hand. "We will dock with your vessel in 1 hour. Prepare your delegation." The screen went dark before Jack could respond. "Well, that was abrupt," muttered Chief Engineer Doug Wilson. Lisa approached Jack. "Commander, I've been studying the limited data we have on the Zeridians. Their technology appears to be at least a century ahead of ours, maybe more." "All the more reason to be diplomatic," Jack said. "Let's prepare the meeting room. And Doug, make sure our best tech is on display. I don't want them thinking we're completely primitive." 1 hour later, Jack led the Zeridian delegation through the ship. Ambassador Zortok was accompanied by 4 other aliens, each wearing what appeared to be some kind of armor, covered in swirling patterns that seemed to move on their own. "This is our bridge," Jack explained, gesturing around the command center of the Endeavour. "From here we control all ship functions and—" A strange sound interrupted him. It took Jack a moment to realize the ambassador was laughing. "Is something amusing, Ambassador?" Jack asked, keeping his voice neutral. "Forgive me," Zortok said, though his tone suggested he wasn't sorry at all. "It's just that your control systems are so manual. You still use physical interfaces." One of the other Zeridians spoke in their native language, a series of clicks and whistles. The whole delegation made the laughing sound again. Jack felt his face grow warm, but he kept his diplomatic smile. "We find our current systems reliable and effective for our needs." Of course, Zortok said, in a tone one might use when speaking to a child. The tour continued to the engine room where Doug proudly displayed the ship's fusion drive. "This is our latest propulsion technology," Doug explained. "It allows us to reach 1/10 light speed, yes?" Zortok interrupted. "We achieved that milestone over 300 years ago." He turned to his companions. "Their civilization is even younger than we thought." Lisa stepped forward. "Perhaps you could share how your propulsion systems work. We're eager to learn." Zortok looked down at her, literally down, given the height difference. That would be like trying to explain quantum mechanics to an insect. No offense intended. Of course, Lisa said tightly. The final stop was the weapons demonstration. Security Chief Kelly Mason showed holograms of Earth's defense systems and military capabilities. "Our fleet includes 20 major battleships and over 100 support vessels," Kelly said, "each equipped with plasma cannons capable of—" Zortak didn't even try to hide his amusement this time. The laugh was loud and clear. Is something wrong with our defenses? Jack asked. Commander Nelson, Zortak said, composing himself. Your entire fleet wouldn't stand a chance against a single Zeridian war vessel. Your weapons are charming antiquities to us. Jack felt a cold knot form in his stomach. If what the ambassador said was true, humanity was completely vulnerable. Then we have much to learn from each other, Jack said carefully. After the tour, they gathered in the conference room. Jack had hoped for a productive discussion about possible cooperation between their species. Instead, it turned into a lecture. The Zeridian hierarchy spans 12 star systems, Zortak explained, projecting a hologram from a small device on his wrist. The image showed planets and stars in far greater detail than Earth's best technology could produce. We have established peace and order throughout our domain for over 1,000 years. That's impressive, Jack said. Earth's nations only achieved unified government 50 years ago. Yes, your political systems are still very basic. Zortak's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. This brings me to the purpose of our meeting. We wish to offer Earth protection. Jack leaned forward. Protection? From what? The galaxy is not always a friendly place, Commander. There are species far less benevolent than the Zeridians. We offer you a place under our protection in exchange for certain resources and compliance with Zeridian law. Lisa, who had been quietly observing the aliens throughout the meeting, spoke up. What kind of resources? And what would compliance entail? Zortak's mouth stretched into that unsettling smile again. Nothing unreasonable. Some of your rare minerals, perhaps. And compliance simply means following the guidance of your betters. For your own good, naturally. Jack and Lisa exchanged glances. This wasn't an offer of friendship. It was barely veiled subjugation. We appreciate your offer, Ambassador, Jack said carefully. But we would need to discuss this with our full government before making any decisions. Of course, Zortak said, standing abruptly. Take all the time you need, though I should mention those who are not under Zeridian protection are on their own. As the meeting concluded and the Zeridians prepared to return to their ship, Jack overheard 2 of them speaking. Their translator devices were still active. The humans won't be useful against the coming threat, one said. No, replied the other. They're far too primitive. It's a shame. Another species lost when the darkness arrives. What darkness? Jack asked, stepping toward them. The Zeridians looked startled, then composed themselves. Zortak intervened smoothly. Nothing that concerns such a young species, Commander. Focus on developing your quaint little civilization. We'll be in touch about our protection offer. As the Zeridians left the Endeavor, Jack turned to Lisa. Did you notice anything useful about them? He asked quietly. Lisa nodded. Despite their technology, they have physical limitations. Their eyes are positioned for forward focus, poor peripheral vision, and they seemed uncomfortable with our ship's changing light levels and temperature zones. Good observations, Jack said, because I think we'll need every advantage we can get. Whatever this darkness is, I don't think the Zeridians came to help us. They came to use us. So what do we do? Lisa asked. Jack watched through the viewport as the alien ship gracefully moved away from the Endeavor, its blue energy trail shimmering against the blackness of space. We prepare, he said grimly, and we prove them wrong about humanity. 6 months had passed since the humiliating first contact with the Zeridians. Earth's leaders had politely declined the protection agreement, choosing independence over submission. The Zeridians had not contacted them since. Commander Jack Nelson had been promoted to admiral and now oversaw Earth's rapidly expanding defense program. The encounter with the aliens had lit a fire under humanity's collective efforts. New ships were being built, weapons developed, and soldiers trained at an unprecedented rate. Admiral, you need to see this, said Lisa Carter, now captain and head of the newly formed Xenobiology Division. She rushed into his office at the United Defense Headquarters in Geneva, tablet in hand. Jack looked up from his desk, covered with blueprints for improved plasma cannons. What is it, Captain? We're picking up an emergency transmission from the Zeridians. Jack's eyebrows shot up. Put it on screen. The wall display flickered to life. The image was distorted and filled with static, but Jack immediately recognized Ambassador Zortak. The alien looked different now. His clothing was torn and one of his 4 eyes was swollen shut. This is an urgent message to all species in the Orion sector, Zortak said, his usually smooth voice now raspy. The Zeridian hierarchy is under attack by an enemy we call the Void Collective. Our outer colonies have fallen. The Collective consumes all in its path, organic matter and technology alike. The transmission cut to static, then resumed. Request assistance from any civilization with military capabilities. Even, Zortak seemed to struggle with the words, even the humans. The transmission ended. Lisa and Jack stared at the blank screen in silence. Should we be happy they're finally acknowledging we exist? Or worried about whatever can make them desperate enough to ask us for help? Lisa asked. Both, Jack replied, reaching for his communication panel. Get me General Patricia Dawson. The Defense Council needs to meet immediately. 2 hours later, Jack stood before the 12 members of Earth's United Defense Council. The room was tense as he finished playing the Zeridian transmission. So the almighty Zeridians are in trouble and want our help, said General Dawson, a stern woman with short gray hair and more combat experience than anyone else in the room. After treating us like children, why should we care? Because whatever this Void Collective is, it could come for us next, Jack replied. And based on the Zeridians' reaction, it's worse than anything we've prepared for. Do we have any actual information on this enemy? Asked Admiral Chen from the Science Division. Lisa stepped forward. Very little, sir. From the transmission and subsequent data bursts we've received, we know there's some kind of biomechanical hive mind. They assimilate both organic life and technology. The Zeridians have lost 3 colony worlds in the past month. And their weapons didn't work? Asked General Dawson, leaning forward with interest. Apparently not effectively, Lisa said. The report suggests the Collective adapts quickly to whatever is used against them. The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. A deep voice broke the silence. I have a suggestion. All heads turned toward Major Ryan Foster, a decorated Special Forces commander who had been quietly observing from the corner of the room. With his broad shoulders and the scar running down his left cheek, Ryan looked every bit the soldier he was. Major Foster, you have the floor, said General Dawson. Ryan walked to the center of the room. The Zeridians think we're primitive because our technology isn't as advanced as theirs. But technology isn't our only strength. Humans are adaptable, creative. We think outside the box in ways their structured society doesn't. He pulled up a holographic map showing Zeridian territory. I propose we send a small strike team to assist in defending this colony here. Nexus 7. It's under attack but not yet fallen. Instead of committing our fleet, we show them what humans can do on the ground. A proof of concept. You want to send a handful of soldiers against an enemy that's defeating the Zeridians? Admiral Chen asked skeptically. Ryan nodded. Sometimes, a scalpel works better than a sledgehammer. If the Zeridians fight with rigid tactics and standardized approaches, that's exactly what the Collective will adapt to. We bring something different to the table. General Dawson studied Ryan thoughtfully. It's risky, but it minimizes our exposure while potentially gaining us valuable intelligence and, if successful, the respect of the Zeridians. She turned to Lisa. Captain Carter, you're our Zeridian expert. What do you think? Lisa considered for a moment. The Zeridians have a hierarchical society. They follow rules and protocols for everything. If this collective adapts to patterns, then the Zeridians' predictable tactics would be a weakness. Our unconventional approaches could be exactly what's needed. General Dawson nodded slowly. Very well. Major Foster, assemble your team. Captain Carter, you'll go as our xenobiology expert and liaison. She looked at Jack. Admiral Nelson, prepare a small, fast ship for their mission. If this works, we'll consider further assistance. If not, she didn't finish the sentence. 1 week later, Ryan stood in the loading bay of the UNS Swift Arrow, a sleek, newly commissioned vessel designed for speed. His team consisted of 8 specialists, each chosen for their unique skills and adaptability. "All equipment loaded, sir," reported Sergeant Alan Mills, the team's weapons expert. "Good. Make sure everyone has the modified armor." Ryan had insisted on special adaptations based on Lisa's research about the Void Collective. Lisa approached, dressed in combat gear rather than her usual uniform. "The Zeridians have acknowledged our assistance offer. They don't sound thrilled." Ryan smiled grimly. "They will be." Jack entered the bay for a final briefing. "The Swift Arrow will get you to Nexus 7 in 4 days. The Zeridians are holding the main settlement, but they're surrounded. Their commander, Krelvor, has agreed to let you join the defense, but don't expect a warm welcome." "We're not going for hugs, sir," Ryan said. Jack lowered his voice. "This mission is about more than saving Zeridian lives. It's about proving humanity's worth as an ally. Show them what we can do." "We will, sir," Ryan said confidently. As the team boarded the Swift Arrow, Lisa fell in beside Ryan. "The Zeridians think they're giving us a meaningless position on their defensive line. What they don't know is that I've analyzed their defensive setup. The position they're assigning us is actually a critical vulnerability they've overlooked." Ryan grinned. "Then we'll give them a surprise they won't forget." The ship's engines hummed to life. Through the viewport they could see Earth growing smaller. Ahead lay the stars, and somewhere among them, an enemy unlike any humanity had faced before. And a chance to prove that humans weren't the primitive species the Zeridians thought them to be. "Ready to make some aliens eat their words?" Ryan asked his team. 8 determined faces looked back at him. "For Earth?" he said. "For Earth," they echoed. The Swift Arrow accelerated smoothly into the darkness of space, carrying with it humanity's best hope for proving their worth to the galaxy. The Swift Arrow dropped out of hyperspace near Nexus 7. Through the viewscreen, Ryan and his team could see the Zeridian colony, a once beautiful collection of tall, spiral structures now partially destroyed. Several Zeridian warships formed, a defensive ring around the planet, occasionally firing at unseen targets. "Receiving transmission from Zeridian Command," said Lieutenant Peter Hayes, their communications specialist. A stern Zeridian face appeared on screen. Unlike Ambassador Zortok, this alien had darker skin with what looked like battle scars across its face. "I am Commander Krelvor of the Zeridian Defense Force," the alien said. "Your assistance is acknowledged. Proceed to Landing Bay 12. You will be assigned to Defensive Section 9. The transmission ended before Ryan could respond. "Friendly bunch," muttered Sergeant Mills. Lisa checked her tablet. "Section 9 is at the far edge of their defensive perimeter. It's exactly where I predicted they'd put us out of the way." Ryan smiled. "Perfect." When they landed, no one came to greet them. The Zeridian docking bay was chaotic, with injured aliens being carried past and soldiers rushing to positions. "Not exactly a welcome party," Ryan said as they gathered their equipment. A single Zeridian officer eventually approached. "I am Sub-Commander Velnir. You will follow me to your assigned position." As they walked through the settlement, Ryan and his team observed the Zeridians' defensive setup. Soldiers moved in perfect formations. Weapons were arranged in precise patterns. Everything was organized and by the book. Lisa leaned close to Ryan. "Look at how they've positioned their defenses. All standardized distances, predictable patterns. The Void Collective would have learned these patterns already." They reached Section 9, a partially collapsed building at the edge of the settlement. It overlooked a dark forest where strange movements could be seen in the shadows. "You will hold this position," Velnir said dismissively. "The Collective attacks most frequently from Sectors 1 through 6. You should be safe here." The way he said safe made it clear he thought the humans needed protection. After the Zeridian left, Ryan gathered his team. "All right, let's get to work. Lisa, what's your analysis?" Lisa projected a 3D map of the settlement. "Based on the attack patterns I've observed, The collective is avoiding the heavily defended main sectors on purpose. They're probing for weaknesses. This position isn't insignificant, it's actually a critical vulnerability. If they break through here, they can circle behind the main Zeridian force. Ryan nodded. Exactly what we thought. The Zeridians can't see it because they're too focused on their standard defensive doctrine. He turned to his team. We're going to need traps, irregular patrol patterns, and environmental modifications. Let's show them how humans fight. For the next 12 hours, the human team transformed Section 9. Instead of the standard barricades the Zeridians used, they created layered defenses with multiple fallback positions. Sergeant Mills set up unusual weapon configurations that could be quickly repositioned. Lieutenant Sam Rivera, their engineer, rigged parts of the damaged building to collapse on command. The Zeridians would never approve of this, Lisa said, watching Rivera weaken a support beam. Good thing they're not paying attention to us, Ryan replied. As night fell on Nexus 7, alarms suddenly blared throughout the settlement. The Void Collective had launched a massive assault, but not where the Zeridians expected. Multiple breaches in Sectors 7 and 8, reported Peter over the comm. And they're heading our way. Ryan looked at his team. This is it. Remember, unpredictable movements, irregular firing patterns, don't let them adapt to us. The first wave of the collective emerged from the forest. They were nightmare creatures, partly organic, partly machine. Some looked like they had once been Zeridians before being transformed. They moved with eerie coordination, adapting their formation as they advanced. Hold fire until my command, Ryan ordered as the creatures approached the first trap. When the front line of the collective reached the hidden pressure plates Rivera had installed, Ryan gave the signal. Now! The ground beneath the creatures exploded, sending them flying. Immediately, Ryan's team opened fire from multiple positions, using an irregular pattern Lisa had designed based on human heartbeat rhythms, impossible for the hive mind to predict. The collective forces hesitated, then regrouped and continued their advance. They reached the second line of defense where Ryan had positioned his team in seemingly illogical locations. Phase 2, Ryan commanded. Mills and 2 others threw specialized grenades that released a quickly changing electromagnetic pulse pattern. Another, of Lisa's ideas based on her observation that the collective communicated through subtle electromagnetic signals. The creatures stumbled, momentarily confused. Ryan's team pressed the advantage, targeting what Lisa had identified as vulnerable connection points between organic and mechanical parts. For 30 minutes, the battle raged. The collective adapted to each tactic, but the humans kept changing. Their approach, firing patterns, positions, even the frequencies of their weapons. Just when the creatures seemed to understand one strategy, the humans switched to another. Then Ryan's comm unit crackled. "Human Commander," came Krelvor's voice. "The main defense line has been breached. Multiple Zeridian units are trapped, including my own. We cannot hold our position." Ryan glanced at his tactical display. The Zeridians' perfect formations had collapsed when faced with the collective's adaptability. "We need to help them," Lisa said. Ryan hesitated. Their position was holding, but barely. Leaving would risk everything. "Sir," Sergeant Mills said, "isn't this why we came? To show them what humans can do?" Ryan nodded. "Team 2, hold this position. Everyone else with me. We're going to rescue some aliens." The scene at the main defense line was chaos. The Zeridians' rigid battle formations had fallen apart. The collective had surrounded a group of Zeridian soldiers in what had been their command post. Ryan assessed the situation quickly. "Rivera, we need a distraction. Mills, prepare for close combat. Lisa, guide us to their weak points." Rivera set up a series of timed explosives while Lisa pointed out patterns in the collective's movements. When the explosives detonated in a complex sequence, the creatures turned toward the new threat. "Now!" Ryan shouted. His team charged forward, moving in a chaotic pattern that confused the hive mind. They cut through to the surrounded Zeridians, where they found Commander Krelvor protecting a younger Zeridian. "My offspring," Krelvor explained, seeing Ryan's glance. "Our position is lost." "Not yet," Ryan said. He explained his plan quickly. "Not the careful Zeridian retreat they would expect, but a bold push through the weakest point in the collective's formation. Krelvor looked skeptical but nodded. We will follow your lead, human. Together, the human team and Zeridian soldiers fought their way out, using human unpredictability combined with Zeridian firepower. When they reached safety, Krelvor stared at Ryan with all four eyes wide. You fought without proper formation, the Zeridian commander said. Your tactics were chaotic, illogical, but effective, Ryan replied. Around them, other Zeridians were watching the humans with new interest. No one was laughing now. The collective adapted to our standard tactics, Krelvor admitted. But your methods confused them. Humans are good at being unpredictable, Lisa said. It's one of our strengths. Krelvor looked at his rescued soldiers, then back at the humans. Perhaps, the commander said slowly, we have something to learn from your species after all. The battle for Nexus 7 was far from over, but something important had changed. For the first time, the Zeridians were seeing humans not as primitive beings, but as warriors with unique and valuable skills. As dawn broke over the colony, Ryan received a message from the Zeridian High Command. Request human tactical advisors for all defense sectors immediately. The laughter had stopped. The learning had begun. 2 weeks after the successful defense of Nexus 7, Ryan Foster found himself on the Zeridian Central Command Station. The massive space structure orbited their homeworld, Zeridia Prime, a blue-green planet that reminded Ryan of Earth. But he had little time to appreciate the view. Colonel Foster, a Zeridian aide said, addressing Ryan by his new rank. His promotion had come through after reports of the Nexus 7 victory reached Earth. The High Council awaits you. Ryan nodded to Lisa, who walked beside him. She, too, had been promoted to Major for her crucial role in understanding Zeridian biology and the Void Collective's weaknesses. Ready to face the aliens who laughed at us? Ryan asked quietly. I'm more concerned about whether they're truly ready to listen, Lisa replied. They entered a large circular chamber where 7 Zeridians sat at an elevated table. Ryan recognized Ambassador Zortak and Commander Krelvor among them. In the center of the room stood a holographic display showing the current state of the war against the Void Collective. It didn't look good. Over a dozen Zeridian worlds were marked in red, indicating they had fallen. Colonel Foster, Major Carter, Zortak began, his tone formal but lacking the dismissive edge Ryan remembered from earlier encounters. The High Council has reviewed your actions at Nexus 7. Your unconventional methods achieved results where our standard tactics failed. Ryan noticed how difficult it was for the ambassador to admit this. Zortak continued. Therefore, we formally request human military advisors to assist our forces. The ambassador paused, then added with obvious strain. This would also be an opportunity for humans to learn from superior Zeridian technology and tactics. Lisa glanced at Ryan, raising an eyebrow slightly. The Zeridians still couldn't quite admit they needed help. We would be honored to assist, Ryan replied diplomatically. Earth has authorized me to establish a joint training program. We believe our species can learn from each other. Krelvor spoke up. The human methods are unorthodox, but effective against the collective. Their adaptability complements our strength. Then it is decided, said the Central Zeridian, who Ryan guessed was the council leader. We will establish this joint program immediately. The Void Collective advances toward our core systems. We have little time. 3 days later, Ryan watched as 20 human instructors tried to teach 100 Zeridian soldiers the concept of improvisation. It wasn't going well. You want us to deviate from established doctrine? A Zeridian officer named Dex Ran asked, clearly troubled by the suggestion. Our military procedures are the result of 1,000 years of refinement, and they work great against enemies that fight conventionally, Ryan explained patiently. But the Void Collective adapts to patterns. Your perfect formations and standard responses become predictable. The colonel is right, Krelvor said, entering the training hall. Since Nexus 7, the commander had become an unlikely ally. I witnessed this myself. The humans' unpredictable tactics confused the collective when our methods failed. The Zeridian soldiers looked unconvinced, but they continued the exercises. Meanwhile, in another section of the station, Lisa and other human specialists were learning about Zeridian technology, particularly their advanced weapon systems and energy shields. "Your weapons are indeed impressive," Lisa told her Zeridian instructor, a scientist named Javelin. "But they're designed for maximum power in standard configurations. What if we modified them to have variable output patterns?" "That would reduce overall efficiency," Javelin replied. "But it would make them harder for the collective to adapt to," Lisa countered. Javelin considered this. "An interesting hypothesis. Perhaps we should test it." Weeks passed. The joint training program made slow progress, hampered by cultural differences. The structured, hierarchical Zeridians struggled with human concepts like battlefield improvisation and questioning orders. When situations changed, "They just don't get it," Ryan complained to Lisa one evening as they shared a meal in the human quarters. "Their entire society is built on following rules and procedures. Asking them to improvise is like asking fish to breathe air." "Give them time," Lisa said. "Remember how Krelvor adapted during the battle? They can learn, but their society hasn't valued these skills for centuries." A commotion in the corridor interrupted their conversation. Lieutenant Sam Rivera rushed in, followed by an angry Zeridian officer. "Colonel, we have a situation," Rivera said, looking worried. The Zeridian officer, whom Ryan recognized as Commander Thevra, pointed accusingly at Rivera. "This human countermanded my direct order during the joint exercise. Such insubordination is unacceptable." Ryan stood. "What happened exactly?" Rivera explained. "Commander Thevra ordered our squad to advance along the main corridor during the ER simulation. But I noticed the collective simulation had adapted to that approach after 3 identical runs. I directed our forces through maintenance shafts instead. Unauthorized deviation from the battle plan," Thevra insisted. "And what was the result?" Ryan asked calmly. Rivera straightened. "Our squad was the only one to reach the objective. All forces following the standard approach were tagged as eliminated." Ryan looked at the Zeridian commander. "It sounds like Lieutenant Rivera's insubordination saved your squad, Commander." "That is technically accurate," Thevra admitted reluctantly. "But procedures exist for a reason. How can we maintain order if humans encourage our soldiers to question commands?" "Because sometimes the commander doesn't have all the information," Lisa interjected. "The soldier on the ground might see something you don't." Thevra seemed to struggle with this concept. Finally, he said, "I will consider this matter further," and left stiffly. "That went well," Rivera said sarcastically. Ryan sighed. "Keep trying, Lieutenant. We need to break through their rigid thinking or we'll all be assimilated." The next day, Ryan was surprised when Commander Thevra requested to address all trainees. The Zeridians stood before the assembled humans and Zeridians, looking uncomfortable. "Yesterday, I accused Lieutenant Rivera of insubordination," Thevra began formally. "I have reviewed the simulation data. Had we followed my original orders, all units would have been lost. The humans' adaptation saved the mission and the lives of my soldiers." The room fell silent. No one had expected this admission. "In 300 years of military service, I have never deviated from protocol," Thevra continued. "But perhaps in this unique conflict, some adaptation is necessary." He turned to Rivera. "Your methods are unorthodox, human, but effective. I request that you continue to instruct me in these techniques." Rivera looked stunned but nodded respectfully. After the meeting, Krelvor approached Ryan. "This is unprecedented. For a commander of Thevra's standing to admit error and request instruction from an outsider." "It's progress," Ryan said, feeling hopeful for the first time in weeks. That evening, an emergency alert sounded throughout the station. The command center's main screen showed a massive fleet of Void collective ships advancing toward the Zeridian homeworld. "They've adapted faster than we anticipated," Zortok said, his voice tense. "Our outer defenses have fallen. They'll reach Zeridia Prime in 4 days." Ryan studied the tactical display. The collective ships moved in complex, ever-changing patterns, nothing like the rigid formations they'd first encountered. They were learning, adapting not just to Zeridian tactics, but to human unpredictability as well. "They're evolving," Lisa whispered. "This will require something neither of our species has tried before." Ryan nodded grimly. "We've been teaching Zeridians to think like humans, and humans to use Zeridian technology. But we're still fighting as separate forces." He turned to Zortak and Krelvor. "We need true integration. Not humans fighting alongside Zeridians, but humans and Zeridians fighting as one force, combining our strengths in ways the collective can't predict." Zortak looked skeptical. "Such integration has never been attempted." "Exactly," Ryan said, "which is why the collective won't be prepared for it." The fate of both their worlds now hung on whether two very different species could truly learn to fight as one. The next 3 days were a blur of activity. Ryan, Lisa, and the Zeridian commanders worked around the clock to create something never seen before, a truly integrated human-Zeridian fighting force. Engineer Sam Rivera modified Zeridian battle suits to fit human bodies, while Zeridian scientists adjusted their weapon systems to work with human thought patterns. The result was impressive: humans in alien armor, combining Zeridian technology with human unpredictability. "How does it feel?" Lisa asked as Ryan tested his modified battlesuit. "Strange," he admitted, moving his arms. The suit responded to his thoughts, amplifying his strength. "But powerful." On the other side of the training hall, Zeridian soldiers practiced human-style small unit tactics, learning to make decisions without waiting for orders from above. Ambassador Zortak watched these preparations with all 4 eyes wide. "In all our history," he said to Ryan, "we never considered such integration possible." "Necessity drives innovation," Ryan replied. General Patricia Dawson arrived from Earth with reinforcements the day before the collective was expected to reach Zeridia Prime. She and the Zeridian Supreme Commander Vextor established a joint command structure that honored both species' strengths. "The plan is unorthodox," Vextor admitted during the final briefing. "But perhaps that is what we need." The Void Collective arrived at dawn. Their ships darkened the sky above the Zeridian capital. The integrated defense force waited, ready for the fight of their lives. "Remember," Ryan told his team through the comm system, "unpredictable patterns, rapid adaptations. Don't let them anticipate your moves." The battle began. The collective landed massive forces that moved with terrifying coordination, but this time, they faced something new. Humans using Zeridian technology in ways its creators never imagined, and Zeridians fighting with human creativity. For hours, the battle raged across the city. The collective adapted to each tactic, but the integrated force kept changing their approach faster than the enemy could respond. Then came the critical moment. The collective's command structure was identified, buried deep behind enemy lines. Someone needed to strike at its heart. "We need a small team," Ryan said to General Dawson and Commander Vexator. "Fast, unpredictable, with heavy firepower." "I will go," Krelvor volunteered. Once the most skeptical of Zeridians, he had become one of the strongest supporters of integration. "We go together," Ryan said. Ryan, Krelvor, Lisa, and 3 others, a mix of humans and Zeridians, fought their way to the collective's command node. They moved as one unit, covering each other, combining human instinct with Zeridian precision. "This would have been impossible 3 months ago," Krelvor said as they reached their target. "Impossible for either species alone," Ryan agreed. Lisa set the charges while the others defended their position. When they detonated, the collective forces surrounding the city suddenly lost coordination, falling into disarray. Without their command node, the hive mind faltered. The integrated force pressed their advantage. By nightfall, the battle was won. 1 week later, Ambassador Zortak addressed a joint human-Zeridian assembly on Earth. "We once laughed at humans for their primitive ways," he admitted, his voice carrying through the Great Hall. "Today we owe them our civilization." Neither species could have defeated the collective alone. Together, we proved unbeatable. He raised his long-fingered hand. I announced the Interspecies Defense Accord, formally joining our military forces as equal partners. The hall erupted in cheers from both humans and Zeridians. Outside, new Zeridian recruits arrived at Earth's military academy, ready to learn human adaptability. Meanwhile, human engineers began construction on Earth's first Zeridian human-designed battleship. Ryan watched from a distance, Lisa at his side. From mockery to alliance, she said softly. Turns out our primitive ways had value after all, Ryan replied with a smile. What had begun with laughter had evolved into the galaxy's most formidable fighting force, and the foundation of a lasting friendship between two very different species.